This week on Under NDA.
Honestly, maybe it's not such a bad thing, especially now with AI. You can just generate
Yeah.
You can generate code.
You guys haven't built your digital twins yet?
I know.
I've got 4 Woodies doing jobs right now.
Yeah, that would just cause 4 problems, you know. There was like 4 cats running around. I don't know if there's enough firefighters for that.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Under NDA, the podcast where we find insights and positivity out of ridiculous situations. Today's topic is a fun one. It's no work, all perks. And today's guest is Kat Stratford. Kat, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Kat Stratford. I've been in marketing and product for 25 years up and down the West Coast, and most recently in San Francisco.
25 years, Kat.
I know.
How's that possible? Kat, so for fun, Kat and I worked together. We used to be, we called ourselves Tweedledee and Tweedledum. So that gives you some idea. So this should be a really fun episode. Woody, let's kick us off with story number 1.
Let's do it. Welcome, Kat. Welcome. Yeah, so our first story of the day. Let's dive right in. A few years back, I worked on a small dev team at a big insurance company. We had this one developer who was known for being freakishly reliable. His code wasn't flashy, but it always worked. And which is important.
Yeah, it's just like, it seems like a nice story.
We love this guy.
Yeah, we love this guy.
Yeah.
He hit every deadline without fail. Our manager loved him. He was the kind of guy who just quietly did his job without stirring up any drama. Then one summer, Ryan took a 2-week vacation to Iceland. No big deal. People take time off all the time. But what caught our attention was that he somehow managed to deliver 2 full sprints while he was gone.
He is official. So is he? I'm guessing he was not working during his vacation. I think that's where we're going.
I'm guessing he had outsourced his work for cheaper and better than anybody else in the building.
It's possible. Maybe he just has a hard time taking vacation. Some of us have a hard time disconnecting. But let's see.
That is true.
At first, we just assumed he'd front-loaded his work, maybe grinding through some long nights before he left. But then someone on the team got curious and pulled the logs. And that's when the whole thing started to unravel.
Ooh, what's going to happen now?
Well, it turned out that Ryan had quietly outsourced 100% of his work to a developer
So 100%.
he found on Reddit.
Oh my God.
I was going to say, the first time I ever heard something like that, I just thought, no, like nobody would ever do that. And then realize that, people will do that.
Yeah. Well, have you ever worked? I've worked with multiple people where I'm like, this cannot be your only job. Like, that is just not possible that this is your one and only job.
Yeah.
So maybe it's more common than we think.
Well, it's funny you say that because there was somebody on my team, I won't mention where, but we were like, man, this guy seems so good in the interview, but yet he's so overwhelmed. Everything takes him forever. And like, what's going on? Like, we thought for sure he was a sure thing. And then, and his manager was like, something's weird's going on. But, again, we're just trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. And then he sends an email that doesn't make any sense. Like, we're like, what? And it kind of references a different company. So fast forward, and he never left his last job that he had on his LinkedIn that he interviewed with us.
No way.
Yeah. So he was working, trying to hold down 2 full-time software jobs, and it showed. But again, before that, I never would have believed. I thought those were like rumors. And then,
my God.
And then I started doing the math that if I could do that and then get fired every 6 months, like, could I make more money than the work I'm doing now? It did cross my mind. I was like, okay, maybe these people are onto something.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, maybe it's not such a bad thing, especially now with AI. You can just generate You can generate code.
You guys haven't built your digital twins yet?
I know.
I've got 4 Woodies doing jobs right now.
Yeah, that would just cause 4 problems, There was like 4 cats running around. I don't know if there's enough firefighters for that. So.
Oh my God. So what else happens, Woody? So now they found out that he obviously is not doing his work.
So he subcontracted his entire job. Here's the kicker. He wasn't doing it because he was lazy or burned out. He just wanted more time to focus on his music career. When HR finally confronted him, he didn't seem that rattled. He said, "You liked the work, right? So does it matter who typed it?"
We're merit-based. We're merit-based here.
That is truly, that is an interesting way to put it. Like, have the work is good.
Promote that guy into outsourcing.
Or hire the Reddit person. I mean, if the Reddit person's doing great work.
Scale him up.
Well, they ended up firing him, but the twist is that they actually ended up finding and offering the contract to the Reddit guy.
Oh.
Who also had 3 other clients.
Yeah.
So just cascaded.
If he was good enough to keep Ryan under the radar for a year, he was probably a decent enough developer to work for them full time.
That's awesome. I
wonder, what would you, I mean, I guess I should never do that, but I mean, in the case of Ryan, obviously he came clean, so that's good. So he didn't lie about it. Yeah. So that's positive.
I mean, don't you think they're mostly upset by the lie of a different facade, right? Yeah. So they obviously had no problem with someone else doing the work and doing it a different way. So I think it's just that transparency piece, right? Like versus like going, hey, you guys, like, I know we need to get this work done. And you guys know every roadmap is never always too long. We can never get enough. So if somebody comes and is like, hey, we can get twice as much done and we get a great deal. I mean, there's lots of ways he could have shared that insight.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point because I think about ourselves, like work that we've done, Kat, where we've outsourced stuff, where we've hired people from Upwork to help with work. But it is funny when you talk about roadmaps, they never fully deliver. And I remember when I started my career in consulting, we used to always say, oh, that sounds like a phase 2 kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because you never, I think it's a great point, Kat. Like, maybe he should have just said, hey, I have this creative way to get a lot more work done, and I have an amazing contractor. So you're right, maybe transparency in this case was the key.
Interesting, right? Because now with AI and agentic AI, everyone wants to build agents, right? Everyone's encouraging their teams to go build agents. And like, yeah, if you've got 8 people helping you with your digital marketing, great.
And
but there's a fine line outsourcing that to a real person, apparently.
Yeah, right, exactly. We're cool giving it to the robots, but
yeah, exactly.
They're human, and how dare you? But that is interesting, right? Because right now, too, like if you aren't using the AI tools to be efficient and fast, that would be a problem. To your point, Woody, it'd be like, why is this taking you so long? And why aren't you using these tools? And why haven't you learned how to prompt these well so that you can get good stuff back? And that's an interesting point. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, he's like, I do have a tool. His name is James.
Yeah,
that's right.
Actually, I love that idea even more. That it's not like you always refer like, oh, I use this tool, right, to help me write this, or Dorian proofread it for me. So like, what if he actually though had named it? Like you said, like, oh, tool. I've named my tool Steve.
That's right.
And me and Steve are really proficient.
And then when they catch you, you're like, no, I told you I had Steve. I never said Steve was AI. I said I had a person named Steve. All right, that's a dude. That's some interesting perspectives.
All we need is for AI to have personhood, right? Kind of like the companies. And then all is fair in this.
That's right.
Yeah. It is funny. It's a great point, though. It's like we're fine with the robots, but if it's a person.
Yeah, that's
interesting.
I think it all comes down to the like trust and like the unpleasant surprise and the legal risk of like, oh, are they an employee or not? And what do we owe them? I mean, that's right. I just think people get upset on the trust part, the misleading. I think they're actually delighted that the work got done twice. In fact, I would be like, how do we do this across?
Let's do more.
How do we replicate this across everybody? Everyone, find a Steve right now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a fun one. Let's. They're just going to get better, Kat. So let's get to story number 2.
Story number 2 for the day. So a few years back, I was at this financial firm during one of those just hire everyone with a pulse sprints. Total chaos.
We've all been. What would say? Ass in a seat is better than no ass at all.
That's right. New hires flooding in, onboarding sessions back to back. Nobody knew anyone, which was probably how Matt slipped through the cracks.
I love it.
We've all known a Matt.
I just like the name Matt. Matt. All right. Yeah. Matt was hired as a junior analyst. He did the basics, onboarded, set up Slack, dropped the occasional looks good in email threads, even updated his direct deposit a few times. Seemed like just another quiet guy flying under the radar, except
he really was under the radar.
He wasn't doing anything, like nothing. No reports, no analysis, no decks, just radio silence.
I thought you were going to say he wasn't actually a person and it was just like a bot someone had set up.
There's probably a story or two out there. But his Slack status was green and he kept dodging one-on-ones, which in that environment wasn't exactly suspicious. Everyone's calendar was a dumpster fire. Months go by, and then HR starts digging. Pulls login history, Slack messages, email trails, and the picture becomes clear. Matt had been collecting a paycheck without producing a single shred of work for almost a year.
Good. I mean, on the one side, good for Matt. Like, way to go, buddy.
Yeah. What's funny though is I always wonder, because, we all run into people who put incredible energy into avoiding work.
Yes.
And again, maybe it's like, maybe I'm the weird one, but sometimes just the amount of work and lies and like shadiness involved that I've always am like, isn't that actually more work than just doing the work? Wouldn't doing the work be more fun, less stressful, and like take less time than avoiding the work? I don't know. Maybe I'm a crazy one.
No, I always tell myself, I have a 9.5-year-old kid, and he will argue, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, dude, in the time that we've been arguing about this, you could have just done it.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. It's like, clean your room, do something. But it is, to that point, it's a lot of effort. Like, I used to love the saying of the hardest thing about lying is having to remember.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work and stress. But 1 year of a paycheck and no work, I mean, maybe the trade-off was
pretty tempting. Yeah.
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 Well, I always wonder if it's like premeditated or if it's like something that just unfolds. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
Like people start, but then they're not really into it. And then they're, start skating. And then, it just kind of, and they're like, how long is this going to go on? Or if they're like, okay, I've done the math and it's worth this onboarding because I can probably last a year. Like, I would love to interview some of these people to understand. It's like, did you already have it all figured out? Do you have a spreadsheet, or is this just like each day you're just surviving to the next day?
That's right.
My God, so I have a friend who I will not name, and I will not name the company he worked at, but it was a very large company with many buildings. And this person one day calls me, and I was working, and I was like, hey, it's midday in the middle of winter. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm snowboarding up at Big Bear. And I was like, wow, aren't you supposed to be working? He's like, I am working. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, nobody really ever knows where I am because there's so many buildings. So I just tell everybody I'm in a different building. And so they think I'm in meetings all over the place. He's like, meanwhile, I'm snowboarding. And he was on Slack, like slacking people. Being like, hey, I just got another meeting in this building, or I got to go to this other building. And he just did that for until they figured it out. And of course he got fired. But he just gamed the system constantly. So
yeah, but see, again, did he go in going, I think I can game the system? Or was it just kind of like, a small step? But I think I have a friend who probably worked at that same large company with a lot of buildings who was in QA. And before it was, in vogue, he would write scripts to actually test the things that he was supposed to be testing so that he could go climbing and hiking and all those things that you love to do in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. Did you ever, so I always found it super interesting. So I was also working at a very large company with lots of buildings. And this guy that I work with who was not the greatest producer, but his boss didn't understand that new features in chat had been created where you could time messages to be sent. And she did not realize that. And she and I were sitting down one day. She's like, he is the best worker. He never stops. It shocks me. He sends me messages and emails at 11 p.m. And I'm like, hey, you can schedule that stuff. She's like, what? No, you can't. I'm like, oh, no, you can. So he's not working at 11 o'clock. I know for a fact because I see his Facebook where he's out with people posting pictures.
Right.
Yeah.
So
if somebody sends you a message at 11 at night and you reply to them and you don't get a response because it's an automated message, that's probably, you send a few of those and they never reply.
Yeah.
Probably assume that it's automated.
So what happened to Matt? So they found out.
Yeah.
The story. Or?
So Matt's leadership set up a regular team meeting and snuck in a surprise project update from Matt. No heads up, just, hey, quick share out, Matt. Meeting rolls around, everyone joins a Zoom, except Matt. They ping him, call him, they wait 20 minutes, nothing. By the end of the day, IT cuts him off, access revoked, Matt's gone, vanished, and no one ever heard from him again.
And no one ever heard from him again. Okay.
And it seems like no one ever heard from him in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's like they didn't really miss anything. Oh my God, that is man, they're going to get, that's the whole thing, Kat, to your point, at some point you're going to get caught. You're just running, constantly chasing.
Yeah, that's why. But again, what if you're running 3 of these consecutive, you know what I mean, in parallel?
Yeah.
Right? That's why I'm like, is it a game plan? Is it a business model? Or is it happenstance? Sometimes people are like, I don't know how I ended up here. They've, you know what I mean? They've found themselves somewhere. And I don't know. You guys need to get somebody on this podcast so we can learn more.
We need to find a Matt.
We need to learn more from
somebody.
Matt.
But the whole problem is we'd schedule it. And Matt probably wouldn't show up though. All righty. Well, that was a good one. Let's bring it home with number 3.
All right. Last story for the day. So back when I was working at a financial consulting firm, we had this guy. Let's call him Steve.
Which, by the way, I love that these are all like names in my life, like, all the general names, which is just fantastic, right?
Total work hard, play hard energy, always quoting self-help books, big on TED Talks, probably had grind set tattooed somewhere. One day, accounting flags a weird expense, $11,250, labeled client conflict resolution.
I have no idea where we're going.
Where are we? That's an interesting.
While already a bit bizarre, because let's be real, our client conflicts usually amounted to some passive-aggressive emails and a tray of catered sandwiches. They asked Steve what it's about. He fires back, totally legit, instrumental in helping me stay focused at work.
Okay, that's client conflict resolution, and he's able to work better. Okay.
This sounds like a payoff or like a relocate this person's desk to somebody else.
Sounds kind of like a Qatari airplane situation.
Turns out the $11,000 was for his divorce attorney.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Steve tried to expense his divorce as a business
conflict
benefit.
Resolution. So this is interesting. This brings us back to the first one where we said, would it have been different if he had mostly told the truth but left out a few specifics?
That's right.
But what, I mean, I'm just trying to get my head around, like, how would this make him work better? Just
because he's not under duress from the conflict that work is causing. I think I can walk the route. I feel like I've heard this story before. Of like, the work stress, the divorce.
Yeah. So his logic, getting divorced removed a personal distraction, which made him more productive, which in his words directly benefited the company.
Did he also blame the company for the divorce? Or no?
Oh, because that would have been interesting.
That was a very video game thing.
Yeah,
game, by the way, I'm not saying was not true. But, basically during crunch time to final games, people's relationships sometimes would crumble. And then like post game, the divorces would come and...
Yeah, it doesn't look like that, but keep that in mind, everyone listening.
There is it is interesting because...
What do you put that expense under? You know how like there's always the set, like it's travel, it's meals, it's entertainment, it's team building.
It's other.
Maybe
actually
development.
Yeah. It was his personal development budget.
Yeah.
He's like getting away out of a divorce.
So that's actually pretty interesting. It kind of takes me back. You guys probably remember we had a benefit where it was like $1,000 and it had to go through this one system, but you could buy almost anything. It was like some kind of health and wellness benefit, but you could be like, I need noise canceling. That's what I think I did every year. I'd get like noise canceling headset or like something that I was like, I don't understand.
I remember somebody bought a $1,000 GPU because they said playing games.
How does it? I don't understand how this fits. But I always thought like, why are you guys giving us this money and putting it in a little box? Just give me the money. Let me spend it on a divorce if I want. So like I'm saying, maybe he has a point.
It is funny though, because I think about, I had one benefit at a company I worked at where there was no deductible for any of my medical insurance. And the reason why it was important was because the company said, hey, you as an executive, we don't want you worrying about out-of-pocket expenses for you or your family. So anyone, my kid, my spouse, like, nope, we didn't pay anything out of pocket. Because the idea was, as an executive, we need you not distracted. We need you completely focused on your job because it's instrumental. So maybe that's like that
was his logic.
The ruse. That's his ruse.
Yeah.
I mean, it is funny because like you could mentally get there to where it's like, I
think you could logic your way there. I mean, if you had any friends or sounding boards, they might tell you it's not a good idea. But I think like lock yourself in a room and talk yourself through it 100 times, desperate measures.
Yeah.
Maybe get
there. I think it goes back to, I think the theme of this episode really is just transparency.
Or don't trust yourself as the only source of ideas and like validation, right? Because you got to believe none of these guys bounce that off anybody, because somebody would have said, hey, you either might get fired or like actually commit a crime.
Yeah. And honestly, though, let's give them kudos for creativity. I
Oh,
mean, there's
100%.
something.
Very clever. All three of
something
them.
to be
Very
said.
clever.
But also,
Oh
we
my
still
God.
need to know. We need more intel on: is this strategy, or is this, unforeseen outcomes of small decisions?
Yeah.
To me, that's the big question here. I need to know.
I know this. It's like these stories just raise more questions. You're like, I actually would love to sit down with Matt and be like,
Yeah.
dude, like,
Yeah.
how did you do this, and teach me your ways?
Yes,
I think
Matt.
you guys need to find Matt.
We need to find Matt. That is
Yes.
the goal. The
Find
goal now of
Matt.
Under NDA. Yes, we
Yeah.
have to open up the NDA and find out who this Matt actually is. All right. Well, I think that does it for us for today. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Under NDA. Thank you so much, Kat, for joining us. This was a super fun conversation. So
Thanks for having me, guys.
awesome.
Learn
Thanks,
something
Kat.
new every day. So thank you.
And you got some good tips and tricks, Kat.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Thanks, Kat.
Guys.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Tune in weekly on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you like to find your podcasts. If you have a story you'd like to share, or you'd like to join us on the show as a guest, visit underndapodcast.com and drop us a line. We look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.